Everyone sees the highlights of full-time family travel, the freedom, the adventures, the memories that are created. But there's a side most people don't see or show, the part that feels uncomfortable every single time you move to somewhere new. The insecurity, the uncertainty, the fear. We're 3 months into this, and I want to talk about it. So for us, it started back in Penang in January, or early February, should I say, of this year, 2026. We had a week in Kuala Lumpur, and I thought that was enough time to get over jet lag, to get a feeling of the country, the temperature, and then by the time we went to Penang for the month, we'd all be good, back into routine, everything would be grand. But it wasn't like that. That was where this first uncomfortable feeling hit hard. And I made a video about this. I'll link it at the end. We were out of routine. We didn't know people. We didn't have the familiarity of anything. And it felt uncomfortable. It felt insecure. It felt scary. And it took time to come out of that. But we did come out of it until the next place hit, which was Langkawi, another island in Malaysia. This time there was a few added things to the mix. So we had those whole feelings for the same reasons. We didn't know the island, we didn't know the people. Back in Penang there was a world schooling community that we eventually got used to. In Langkawi there was none of that. And not only that, when we got into our first accommodation, it was not good. We talk about being unsafe, right? So then we felt insecure. Are we going to get our money back? So there was fear around that. And eventually we did. We found somewhere else. And then we met a family there. So that wave came and went. And so this uncomfortable feeling followed us again to another country this time. So we are currently in Vietnam. And we came here because we knew it had a good world schooling community. So back in Penang, we knew we liked that there. That helped that feeling of uncomfortableness go. That was a social, 3 times a week we would meet up and it was a social thing. Here, we knew it was a bit more formal. There were structured lessons and things like that. We were on the WhatsApp group before we came. So we knew we were going to stay here a long time and we just thought we're going to stay in one place and that will ease this uncomfortable feeling, right? So that's why we chose here. But we still had to adjust. It was still that uncomfortable feeling of adjustment and insecurity, I guess, and that fear around not knowing where we are, how safe is it, all these things. And that's okay. All this is okay. We added to this, though, coming here, because we added our own pressure on, because we thought, right, we're going to stay 3 months, we're going to find a long stay rental to save us some money on accommodation, not use Airbnb. So we did use Airbnb for the first week in a homestay. So it was just a room and shared facilities. And we did that for a week. But the pressure was on. We've got to find this homestay. We've got to find this long-term rental. So we didn't go to any groups in that week. That was the focus. So the stress passed on to the kids, right? You know, they feel the tension in you. You're the role models as parents and they feel that. And we did communicate this as we were going through it as a family. And we eventually found this long-term rental place. So that panic was over. And we, you know, the dysregulation that came from the kids was bedtimes were difficult. Eating was difficult. Wanting to comfort with screens, that was how it showed up for the kids. And that's fine. That's this uncomfortable feeling that we had, okay? So what we noticed was that, you know, the whole family was feeling it. This uncomfortable feeling, the whole family had it. And that made it harder, you know. We knew that the kids were going through this too. Have we done the wrong thing? The fear sets in, blah, 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 blah. But I used mindfulness. I actually did really use it in the moment. So I noticed these feelings. They were familiar, right? We'd been through it twice before. So I knew these feelings were coming up again. I was like, I recognise this. And that's the first thing, is to recognise it. And then I allowed it. And I would discuss it with hubby and say, I'm feeling this right now. And I wasn't wanting to fix it. I wasn't wanting him to fix it. It was an uncomfortable feeling that I was just allowing to be there, because I'd felt it before, because I know the wave comes and goes, because I know this feeling will pass through. So we discussed it as a family. We discussed it with each other. We did get that rental in the end, and that took a lot of pressure off. In hindsight, I think we probably will do these countries more with Airbnbs, give us a bit more time so we're not panicking. And when we return to where we want to be, then we'll do the longer stays. So that's the lesson learned there. So we're nearly 2 weeks in. Like I say, the practicalities of finding the rental tick. We met up at the World School, and it's amazing. We're nearly 2 weeks in, and we've had a week now, because the first week we didn't do this, but the second week we've had science lessons, we've had arts and crafts, we've had there's an English lesson on next Monday. What else have we had? Dancing, creative writing. It's been great. The girls have loved it. They're already starting to make friends. It is really good. We're finding our feet again. And that uncomfortable feeling, like I said, that wave, it's starting to go. I'm feeling it start to go. And, maybe it's opening up for something better, something more than we can ever imagine, right? Watch that space. The lesson here is to really, in anything we do, we have uncomfortable feelings. It doesn't mean the thing that we're doing is wrong or we shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean that the thing needs fixing. You might have a job that you go to, you love your job, but there's certain elements of it you don't like. I always remember what my granddad said. Sometimes in life you have to do the things you don't want to do the things you do want. And that's part of it. And it's, the things you don't want is uncomfortable. And that's what mindfulness teaches us, to be and sit in the uncomfortable sometimes and allow it to pass through, because these are emotions, energy in motion, and it does pass through. Don't resist it, just allow it. And that's how it's helped me in these times. And that's what I'm teaching, not just my kids, but hubby too. And being open to what we're feeling and working with it, because we've got no regrets doing this. People might say, oh, what you're doing, you're messing up your kids. Actually, I think this is a really good real life lesson to teach your kids, is to show you going through uncomfortable stuff and how to manage it. I mean, that's such a life lesson for your kids. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it feels insecure, but you can be like that, just living at home, working the 9 to 5 and going to school, right? So we're enjoying this. We do like the adventure and creating the memories, but you have to weigh it up. Sometimes you get the uncomfortable, and that's where we are just coming out of. So I wanted to share that with you. I'll put the videos up here of the Penang uncomfortable and the Langkawi uncomfortable if you haven't seen them before. What do you think? What's your uncomfortable? How do you work with uncomfortable? I'd love to know in those comments. Thanks for watching. Much love. Bye for now.